welcome. So this building here where we are, it floods all the time, so we've just changed the mezzanine floor there. I put green tongue in there because it's more water resistant, but the last time it flooded went up to the bay lights up there, so it's quite high, quite big. So if you put the bay lights, it's a 4 metre high door, so to give you some idea. So what we did last time was we put hardy board in here. Because it was underwater for so long, the hardy board just can't stand to be under the water for that long. So this time what I'm putting in is this aluminium composite board. So I'm putting it in and I'm putting joiners in between each one. So this has got a plastic coat over it at the moment. As you can see, the plastic coat here, you just take it off and it's nice and like a whiteboard underneath it. So it's called an eco board. A bit more difficult to do than gyprock or hardy board. You got to work your joins out. So for instance, when we put the ceiling in, there's a 25mm angle goes in the corners up there, so you're not too worried about the gaps in the corners and as such, because the gaps in the corners up here, they will end up with a 25mm angle around through there. Doing sections like this, cutting it out, is quite good. So I use a nibbler, and what it is the panels are glued in, so I haven't glued this one in yet, but the panel will be glued in there. These panels are glued, and I've got minimum screws here, so I've got a screw there, and the top ones will be taken out. I'll put screws in there to hold it until we get the angle, and then the screws will go through the angle, but the angle will also do these corners. There are little bits of aluminium that I can put a little aluminium strip around there. I have seen them, but this is the angle where that will go in there, so it will end up looking like quite good. With this here, once all the plastic's pulled off it and the angle is in there, so that will just sit there like that. So it'll look quite good there. Missed a little bit of gap there, but we can fill it up with no animal gaps and filler. So down the bottom, the thing is that once they fill up with water, you got to get the water out of the cavity down here. So at each section down here, I'll be putting a little button vents. They're little tiny stainless steel button vents. So I'll be putting button vents in down there to let the water out. So once the water comes out, then it dries very quickly, and you can flip the button vents out, so that's no problem. But I've had a look online and everywhere, and no one is doing these walls in flood recovery. They go and put exactly the same bloody thing back, or they put the hardy board back. But this is what it looks like. So I've done that wall, and as you can see, it's nice and neat. And in this environment where it's a mechanics workshop, it doesn't matter if it gets grease or that on it. This here, same thing. I've got to finish this one, and that's what I was saying, that like when it floods, the water just sits in there and it just goes mouldy and rotten and everything else. But these panel boards, they are so dense that they're actually an insulation panel as well. So they take all the, shut a lot of the noise out. You work things out. I'm hitting that one. There's actually a wire runs down in there that wasn't secure, so the electrician put it in there. It just hangs down there when you bang the wall, it bangs. But this is quite easy to do. Run your wires out. There's a power point up there. There'll be a power point here in behind there. So there's another power point there. You just line them up and drill them. Working out what to do here on the corner and how to join it up to here was a bit of a problem, because I need to have this on this one as well as there, and this one here going into it. So I trimmed this right back down here, and then I cut a groove in there and got that in, and that went in okay. But most part I'm doing this by myself, so I do have a panel lifter there to do the ceiling. The other units in this complex, they're not putting a ceiling in. They said we're not going to put a ceiling in, but I think it looks really daggy without a ceiling, so I'm going to put a ceiling in. If something happens to it, the water will just come out down the wall anyhow, so there's no way in the world that there is sealed up there. So the water will just run out of there anyhow, and I think if you have it properly done, it will be fine. Yeah, so anyhow, I just thought I'd say the panel is Eco Panel. It's a glossy. It's actually about $20 a sheet cheaper than hardy board, or that board that you use in showers and toilets, which we put in here last time. The only thing is that, you know, so like on here, I screwed these joiners in, and they don't make a flush screw. So even though I countersunk them and did things like that to them, it still shows up little bumps in there. But I've left the plastic on this until after I'm finished. So when I'm finished, I'll come around and fix it all up and just take the plastic off, and then it'll be shiny. I don't have to paint it. If the workshop wants to put a mural on it, they can put a mural on it, or mural on it, or their logo on it in a vinyl wrap, and then take it off when they go. So that's one real advantage of it, is that you can put vinyl wrap signs on the walls, and then just take them off when you go. So all those screws that you see at the top there, when I put the angle up there, I'll just pull those screws out and put the other screws back in. But you see the board, when I put the ceiling on, that'll come down another probably 5 mil, so the angle will cover those screws that I went up that high, so that's not a problem. Anyhow, I just thought I'd tell you, share this with you, because no one is doing this. That they use these boards for making outdoor trailers, or they use these boards for making caravans, and they use them for making ice boxes and bird cages and everything else, but no one's ever used them in a flood recovery like this is. So I think it being aluminium composite, we're not going to get any water damage to it. It'll hose back off. There won't be anything accumulating inside. There won't be any mold, because we'll have the little vents on the bottom, little button vents, they call them, stainless steel button vents. They use them in caravans and cupboards and things like that, to air cupboards. Other than that, it's a steel building, so it can go underwater. But what we were putting inside it, back inside of it, was not, could not stand being underwater. So hopefully we're doing it right. The other units have gone with a piece of tin, but the thing with the tin was that they still have to put insulation behind it, because it ends up in an oven. This stuff here can be out in the sun all day, and you can touch it and it's really ice cold. Inside the walls here, they're just nice and cool and cold. So I think it's coming up all right. We couldn't find a builder who would do all this, so we're doing it ourselves. One of those things, but anyhow, hope that helps anyone who's thinking of using this in their house in a flood recovery.